Hello, welcome back to my channel. For those that are new, my name is Alicia Claire and we've got Mr. Joseph hanging out over here, kind of in your corner. But I have been wanting to check in with you guys on what the heck is going on with our land and also the things that we have purchased for our land so far. So I thought that would be fun to put those both in one video. So let me really just dive into it because this is a story, okay? So let me just give you the tea. To be honest, I already finished my latte. I was gonna be like, sipping that latte, but I was doing my notes and the latte is gone. If I'm being honest, I already have filmed this video technically. I one day went out to the land, set up my little scene and recorded everything, but it was so windy that you could not hear what I was saying. So since I have purchased a microphone, so I will be prepared for next time, but there were also a couple of things that I had forgot to say, and then honestly time has passed since then and things both have but haven't happened since then. Let me just start over and set the stage. And I do have notes to help me out here with dates and everything just to kind of keep me on track because it has been a year coming, literally, which is insane. Okay, in June of last year, my husband and I decided that it was time for a change. We started looking at properties and at the end of June, we flew up to Northern California, really the Bay Area, to start looking at land. We decided that we wanted to buy property, get a tiny house, move on to it, and start building a home. We either flew or drove up to Northern California a total of 4 times to look at different properties. We probably saw a total of 10 different properties, I would say, when everything was said and done. We put an offer down on 2 total. The first one was in Napa. That would have been a beauty. They did not pick our offer that we put on that one. So we ended up then driving up to Northern California for the 4th time, and that's when we found the property that we have our offer in for now and that we are purchasing now. Little side note, because we came up 4 times, and not that 10 is that many properties, I mean, I kind of wish we had seen more, although there's really weren't that many properties that were in the area we wanted to be, that was the price range we could afford, and that was the size that we wanted, and the topography that we wanted with the trees and plants that we wanted. So we had a long laundry list, and the property that we are in on now is basically like everything that we were looking for. So very grateful, but I have to say that Redfin and all these apps with their photos for land for sale, they're so deceiving. We drove to some properties and I thought they were going to be completely different. They're going to feel a lot bigger or just whatever it is. Photos are deceiving. Oh, and then being in Napa, I felt like Napa was going to be a little bit more to write home about. I wasn't amazingly impressed. Granted, like we didn't go to any wineries or doing anything touristy, but just driving through it, not exactly what I expected. But Napa still would have been great to live there, especially for that property. So in the middle of our searching for land, mid-July, we put our house on the market. One of my best friends is a realtor, so she helped us out. Beforehand, we like repainted a lot of it white, got to deck it out. It was kind of fun prepping for it. I just wish I had given myself more time to prep for it. It was a really good time to sell when we put our house on the market. I mean, honestly, it was a really good time to sell a couple months prior to that, but it was still good timing. In between our 3rd and our 4th visit to Northern California, we ended up getting 2 offers on our townhouse. We went with the, of course, better deal between the 2. And with that came back up to Northern California. We were looking at the property, which is the one that we're in escrow for now. We, of course, loved it. When we first came up here, we had seen this property and we decided to not go to it because it was out of our price range. But then as we were seeing more properties and seeing actually what the land cost that we were looking for, we're like, okay, we need to up our budget a little bit. And then this property made a lot more sense for us, especially for the value that it's going to be. Just given a couple years, even if we didn't do anything to it, I literally feel like we could get over 25% back in just a couple years if we sat on it and then sold it. So that's not the plan. We definitely want to do some things to it. So whether we sell it in the future or not, we just feel like it's a very solid investment. We put in an offer literally the same day that we saw our property, and the next day they accepted the offer. We were so excited. So between our townhouse being sold, finding our land, we put in the order for our tiny house, everything was just moving along really well. We ordered a pod, we're packing, we're moving, we're getting everything going. Mid-escrow, we did have a couple little red flags pop up where maybe yellow they're red. I can't call them yellow. Red flags pop up. We needed to request from the seller of the land to have people come on the land to test the water, test the septic, see how everything's working, make sure everything is in working order, and report back to us. So we requested to be able to do that and got no response. They did not say anything, and we're like, okay, this is weird. So while we're doing our thing in San Diego, our realtor up here, who is amazing, by the way, if anybody's looking for someone really North or South Bay area, she's Just Phone Phoebe on Instagram. She's great. She's so nice. She drove hours to see land with us. So I'm so grateful, because she's actually based out of Santa Cruz, which we did look at land there at one point, which is how we found her. But then she also drove up to Napa and to like other areas. So thank you, girl. Kind of starts fighting for us. I'm like, what's going on? Like, why is no one getting back to me? She's talking to their realtor, and the seller works both in and out of country. So he was hard to get a hold of. It was just from the different time zones. It was just insane. It's so hard to even speak on this because it's so telephone tag, and it's like, who knows what's even going on. But it seemed as though he was kind of wanting to maybe change his decision on selling the land, and it seemed like a lot of that had to do with the property taxes that were still due on the land. So the land that we bought is in a previously burned zone. But like less than 5 years ago, there was a fire that came through the area, burned unfortunately down the house and a handful of the trees right around it. Their property taxes for the past few years, they've been generating the amount owed off of the value of the property when the home was still on it. So of course it has a completely different value now without the buildings, and so they have been fighting their taxes, which completely makes sense. I'm on board with that. I would do the same thing. But they haven't been getting very far with it, and so even though they had their land up for sale and it had been on the market for, I feel like, over a year, since I guess everything was becoming real, the ball was actually moving, that maybe they got a little freaked out and they're like, okay, maybe I can't do this. I don't really know. That weirdness and kickback kind of just turned into ghosting. So at a certain point, while we were still in escrow, we never heard from the seller, and from that point on, nobody heard from the seller. The realtor didn't hear from the seller. The title company didn't hear from the seller. And the realtor also quit his job, moved to Nevada, and started a completely different, I don't know what he did. I don't know, but he moved. At this point, like, we are packed. We are moving. Our house is sold. We did a rent back period for our townhouse. So, like, we're paying to stay there. We don't have another option besides get our 3 cats and get our butts up here. So on October 24th, we put most of our stuff in a pod for storage. We put some things in a U-Haul that thankfully my mom had, so thanks, Mom, for letting us use that. Packed up our vehicle with us, our cats, and we just drove up to Northern California, semi-local to where the property was. So we basically had a little under a week staycation. It was a lot of fun. We found just a place on Airbnb, a cabin in the woods, waiting it out there while we're figuring everything out. The escrow was supposed to close the next day on the 25th. So it was one of those things where it's like either he's gonna sign it, it's gonna close and we're done, or we're going to continue to be ghosted and nothing's going to be signed and we're going to need to go from there. We'd already talked to our realtor about what the options would be if they did continue to ghost us, but we were really hoping that, because when you go into escrow, it's a legally binding contract. Like, you can't get out of it because you're agreeing to sell your land. Like, we've gone into a business contract. We also have deposit with the title company. So like, we're in it at this point, you know? I was trying to stay as optimistic as possible, and we were really hoping that he was just waiting till the last minute, hoping that we were gonna drop out, just gonna end escrow and be like, just kidding, never mind, we're gonna get out of here. At which point they would have been able to return our deposit. But because we've gotten to the point that we're at, that just wasn't an option for us. During these few days at our cabin, our Airbnb cabin, the tiny house was finally getting finished being built and delivered up to where we are now staying. So that was delivered on about October 30th, I would say. And now being the beginning of July, I am just like, what did we get ourselves into? I can't believe that we still don't have everything said and done. When we were deciding if we wanted to go the lawyer route or just pull out and look for other land, we were continuing to look for land. Nothing was available that we were looking for. And we talked to a couple different lawyers. Some said that it could be less than a year, some that it could be a year to 2 years, and we were just so nervous and apprehensive. But we would talk to people and everyone was like, this is really straightforward. This should be such an easy case to win, no complications, very cut and dry, black and white. So we're like, okay, you know what, let's just do it. Hopefully it's quick, just a couple months. We were like, maybe we'll just be here through the end of the year, being the end of 2022, or whatever it is. We were just trying to be as hopeful as possible. So we got a lawyer, because it's very possible that once we started going the lawyer route, they would be like, we don't want to do this, we don't want to pay for this, and they would just be like, you know what, let's settle, let's sign it, have everything be said and done, and that's that. So there are a handful of steps that our lawyer had to do before we could get anywhere close to setting a court date to settle this whole thing. And don't quote me on all this lawyery stuff. I am not a lawyer. I am just going through my memory, talking to my husband about his memory as well, and then kind of like looking through our emails. So again, don't quote me, but this is a rough experience. In December, our lawyer submitted a complaint and requested mediation, which after you do that, you legally have to wait 10 days to see if the seller reaches out to you. So we wait that time span. Nobody reached out to us. In the beginning of January, our lawyer filed a lis pendens for us, which basically makes it so that the seller cannot go and sell the land to somebody else while you're in this situation. You are in escrow, your money is there, but technically if he wanted to, he could go and sell the land. So putting this on the books makes it so that if anyone tries to transfer the title, this will be a big red post-it note, metaphorically, right on the front of it being like, this land cannot be sold. That was a huge relief. Then just a little bit later in January, he was served papers that gave him 30 days to respond again. Did not respond to being served papers. We then petitioned the court for default of the escrow and the contract. On March 13th, the court acknowledged the default and put that on the books. We then waited for the court to generate a court date, and that court date ended up being May 9th. So it's been a lot building up to that point, even though our lawyer was so confident. It's like you never know what's gonna happen. We got to the courthouse on May 9th. Our lawyer was amazing, had everything all prepared. The judge thought the whole thing was hilarious and was just like, this seems very straightforward. I don't think we need to go over much more. Do you guys want to say anything? Because I'm basically ready to sign this off and sign the land over to you and be like, it's yours. So we're like, no, we don't want to say anything. We like that decision. Let's do it on the books. Stamped it, signed it, approved it, took the paperwork, dropped it off to the title office. They had the paperwork. We're like, call us, we'll come down and sign the title, and that'll be that. We confidently went to the land, had our little celebratory get together that I'm sure a lot of you have seen, walked the land and stuff, and then we were just waiting for them to call us and give us a date. And because our situation, like normally houses aren't sold like this, right? Like title companies aren't typically needing to deal with this. It's a very strange situation. So they hadn't done it before. They needed to look into what they did need to do. They needed to make sure that legally they were covering their backs, covering our backs. They obviously don't want to be sued because they do something improperly. So for me, kind of annoying. I'm like, you have literally the court paperwork. What do you mean you need more answers to make sure that it's legal and okay to do this? But they're just like, we just need to make sure, blah, blah, blah. So they need to go down to the courts and pick up documentation for their underwriters to go through to verify everything. So they go down, which I swear, like they said it'd be done one day and then it's like a week later and they're still like, oh, we still need to go down. And I'm sure there's so many other things involved. They aren't letting us know every single step along the way. So I'm not saying they're sitting there doing nothing for a week, but for us, that's what it feels like. It's annoying. It's frustrating. So they finally go down to the offices. Maybe they were finally told the paperwork was ready to be picked up or something. I don't know. So they go down to the office to pick it up and they find out that it's 300 pages and they need to charge you per page. I don't remember what the charge was. At this point, I would have been like, here's my credit card, pay for it. It's not a big deal. Let's just get the paperwork. But they decide they want to have it put on a flash drive instead because that costs less. But it can't be done instantly. So they have to go back down to the courts on a different day and pick up this flash drive. They also don't have any HDMI ports on their laptops at anywhere in the office. So they can't even use the flash drive. They have to then have it transferred to something else to then be able to utilize it in their office. This takes all for forever, right? We keep checking in like once a week. Sometimes they won't reach out to us for a week, so we check in with them the next week, and it's just like, come on guys, like what's going on? Let's get this going. And it has now been 2 months, practically. We are days shy of 2 months. They are still ping-ponging us back and forth, trying to just get this prepared for us so that we can sign it. Everything from their perspective, they told us that everything seems good to go, but they also then said that now, which I'm like, where the heck did our seller come from? The seller came out of the woodworks and is not fighting the sale of the land, thank goodness, from at least what they've let us know. The seller is just trying to figure out the property taxes, because for the title to transfer names, it has to be clean of the property taxes being paid. And legally, how it would normally go is that the property taxes would just come out of what we pay for the land. He just wouldn't receive that chunk of it. It would go straight to paying the property taxes, and then he would get the remainder. But I'm sure he's still dealing with trying to get it to the number that he wants it to be. So from my perspective, my being ignored by everyone else and no one giving us good answers perspective is that is what they're trying to figure out right now, is the property taxes. Ooh, another tidbit about the court situation. So thankfully, we were able to request in the default to the court to also be reimbursed for all of our rent for the time that we've been here, at least up until now. So anything from now on, we would pay for. So for like, I don't know, like 8 months or something, we requested to be reimbursed for the rent from the seller, and also then our pod storage fee, because we wouldn't be needing to store it there. We would have put it on our land by now and transferred everything to a shipping container or some sort of other storage. We requested that, and thank goodness that was approved. So we are being reimbursed that money, and it comes directly out of what we're paying for the land. We should get a handful of $1,000 back from that we are able to keep. Oh, and our lawyer fees. Those were pricey. My goodness, people. Sometimes when people are like, oh, let me call your lawyer, I'm like, no, please don't. Obviously, he charges by the minute, by the hour, and it's like a 10-minute minimum or something. So it's like, no matter what, you're paying money for that call. It's like a couple $100s an hour. That will all be reimbursed. Thank golly. So right now we're kind of in a weird place, because I'm sure as everybody experienced, it was so hot a few days ago. Here we hit I believe it was a max of 99 degrees, but from what my husband told me, that day, I don't know, one of the first couple days in July was one of the hottest days on record to date since they started tracking temperature. My gosh. I mean, hashtag go vegan really helps with climate change, but that ain't what this is about. But that's crazy. We are living somewhere where a fire already went through and torched a percentage of the land and surrounding areas. So we're very conscious of fire. We are now officially in fire season, and they've got these signs that we drive by in town, and it's got a meter, and it shows you like where you are. For the longest time, we were still in green. It's the lowest they could be. They're like, you're doing great. No such thing as a fire anywhere. Like, thank goodness. Love ya. Now we're in blue. I believe it calls itself moderate, so moderate chance of fire. There is one fire that popped up somewhere semi-locally, and we're just like, we want to be able to be on our land, be in control of it, do what we need to do to make it as fireproof as possible, fire resistant. I believe beginning fire season, you need to weed whack and mow down all of your tall, random, just weed, shrubbage that's just growing willy-nilly wherever it wants to. So right now there's maybe 3 feet of grass in some places or more in some places. It's just growing, and it's literally illegal to have that on the land right now. How annoying would that be if somebody reports our land for having the overgrowth that it does, but we can't do anything about it right now, and then that transfers to us when the title transfers to us. That is what's going on, you guys. I just wanted to let you know, yeah, it's annoying, but we're the closest that we've ever been, and we drive by the property. We'll like go by into the property every once in a while just to feel a little bit better, just to touch a tree, feel the nature. We've met some of the neighbors, which is awesome. We'll like walk down to the little river that's there. We see deer all the time. We see turkey. We see huge rabbits, huge birds that are always flying around. So it's just great being there, feeling it. I'm very excited. So that's where we're at right now. Thankfully for this long holiday weekend that we have here, we're just waiting even longer for them to get back to us. But I mean, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. How I look at it is, you know, 99% sure everything goes through how it should, because that's what we've been told by everybody. It's just a waiting game, and our money is in it, and we have the court documentation signing off the land to us. So we're just waiting for that to go through. But I mean, if it doesn't go through, life happens, guys. We will bounce back. It will be okay. I do feel like this has been a waste of a few months because of where it's put my headspace at, but we bounce back, people. We bounce back. We've been buying stuff for the property, especially weed whacking things. We've been handling some of the weed whacking stuff on the outskirts too, because we're like, okay, we need to get at something. And then we just have like little compost pile going. So once title is signed and all of that, I'll give you guys a complete update. The little weed whacks we have done, the little compost pile that we do have. But now for the fun part. What we have bought. Like I said, I actually already recorded this video. I have a handful of things that I purchased that I mentioned on previously, so I'm just going to throw that clip in here. Thankfully the audio was good with the wind for the most part, so bear with it. But so I also thought it'd be fun to mention in this video what we've bought so far for the land, because one of them is the water hookup. So we needed to buy an adapter so that we can plug in the water system that you can't see right over here, give it power, and ideally that should just pump water out of the natural water table. So we have 2 pumps on the land that we ordered through Home Depot. That should arrive soon. But there are 2 things that we have got so far from Amazon, so I'll grab those and then I'll show you the third thing we got, which I'm not going to pull out from the car. It is huge. It is ginormous, but I got a clip of it the other day. We basically got, Jared was calling it a honey pot for the longest, sorry, there was a fly. Jared was calling it a honey pot for the longest time, so now that's stuck in my head and I can't like unlearn that word, but it's a different word that it is. But it's basically this huge tank that you can hook up to your RV or your tiny house, and all of your sewage and then all of the water from the shower, the dishwasher, everything, it goes into it. So you can take it somewhere to get emptied, or you can have someone come and pick it up and empty it for you. So we got one of those, but it's ginormous. That's in the back of the car. But let me get the other 2 things that we got. So, being on this property, as you can tell, there's a lot going on behind us. There's a lot of work that's going to need to get done. And then we plan on having a decent sized compost system going on. So I'm going to need me some gloves. And it can be hard to find vegan gloves, honestly. So these are all synthetic materials. This brown part, there's no leather, nothing like that. But I found when I was looking for different gloves that there would be potentially on top might be synthetic, but then it would be leather on the palm and it would be so misleading. So if anybody's looking for vegan gloves, I will put a link for these down below for you guys because they are awesome. I got them in a size large. I could have gotten them in a medium, I feel, but these do fit pretty darn well. I could have gotten them in a medium, but medium was out of stock when I was looking for them. And I wanted to get something ASAP in the mail, but they're really comfy. They're not too warm, at least, you know, at the moment, but I feel like they'll be really durable. I will keep you updated on how durable they ideally are. The other thing is spray chalk set. Yay. Initially, I thought that I was looking for a vegan, eco-friendly, like animal safe spray paint, toxin free, all that good stuff, because I want to be able to measure things out where I plan to put it and then spray and just mark where it's going to be, and something that's not going to be too permanent, but I can see how everything would feel together, how everything would fit together. And then I can also do the layout plan for the cottage and then the main home also, and literally spray paint out the different rooms, the hallways, everything, so I can see how it feels, see if I'm doing the sizing in the right way, because I'm trying to have like the most complete layout plans for the house that I can humanly possible that we turn into our builder, designer, developer, whoever we end up doing it with. My husband was helping me look, and we found that sprayed chalk ends up being the most logical thing to use. So this came in a pack of 4. The pink one is missing because I've used that one. It works very well, and it comes with the pink, blue, yellow, and then white, and you can honestly spray it on anything. It says grass, asphalt, snow, places you couldn't normally use chalk, and I was like, wait, why couldn't you use like chalk on asphalt? But maybe it doesn't work as well, and I just don't remember, seeing as I haven't played with chalk in ages. I just think this is super awesome and will come in very convenient. So don't worry, I'm definitely gonna vlog when we come up here and plan where everything is and like map out the house and stuff. So you'll be involved in that, I promise. And I'm very excited for that to happen, but there's a lot of other steps we need to do first of all. Another funny thing with our property that I just thought of. So during the time that we were going through that super long escrow, we would drive by the land every once in a while for a couple of reasons, to make sure that no one was completely changing the land. We kept joking, we're like, hey, if they want to install septic, they're more than welcome to install septic, then we'll just take that for them. And then also to see how the land handled different seasons. Because we saw it go through a bunch of rain, we were able to see where the water travels through and where it puddles up, because it definitely gathers in certain areas, and then just what it's like during different times of the day, everything like that, for planning where to put things, for gardening, and what are actually options. And some of the times we were driving by, we were so confused because there was a mobile home that was up here, and there was also like a crane at one point, and we're like, what is going on? And especially them are like, yeah, put in that septic, guys. But it was very weird. And the trailer was there for a super long time, and then it got moved to somewhere else. But in the end, this ended up getting completely solved. There is somebody that is, I honestly don't know who's paying them. I don't know if the community is paying them. I should probably find out now that we're a part of the community, or if the city is paying them, and they're just going around to all the land and chopping down the dead trees still. So we're in a burn zone, and there are still trees, as I'll like pan to the side, that are charred from a burn that was a couple years ago. And so some of them are still alive and they continue growing. But then there are other ones that are just, they're completely dead. They're not doing any good. So we found out that he actually got cleared to stay on the land by the current owner of the land at that time, and they were just working on all the trees and all the land, and it made complete sense in the end when somebody told us. We were just like, we were wondering what that was. At first we were like, is that the seller? Is he here? Oh my gosh, because we've been trying to reach out to him and he wasn't getting back to us. And we're like, if he's literally right there, goodness. Since then, we've also purchased a handful of Milwaukee Tools. We got a weed whacker, I believe it's called a pole saw, where it just has the pole. Of course, it's called a pole saw. I was thinking like a you pull it saw, but now explaining it, I'm like, oh, it's a pole saw. So it's a saw on the end of a pole so that you can get little branches from trees, and a leaf blower. That came as a 3-item set with a really big battery as well, and a fast charger, which is great because for the most part, all of Jared's other tools are Milwaukee, so he has extra batteries that are compatible with all of these tools. We really wanted to go electric. We just figured, especially since we're gonna have solar, that we can just completely sustain ourselves with that. We don't have to worry about like gas or propane for anything else besides a hot water heater. And they're also a little bit quieter. From what we've used so far, we really like all of them. I'll wait to give like a better review in the future when we can actually be on the land, utilizing them properly, and we can show that. But at the very least, the fact that it's compatible with the other batteries, we're like, that is the biggest win. The next thing that we'll need to purchase in this realm, in this category of things, is a wood chipper. We want to wait until we have a shed on the property before we get this wood chipper, because there's no way we can store it in the car and just bring it to and from. Not practical. But There are so many branches on the ground, so many branches that need to be trimmed, so many dead trees that need to be chopped down. We're probably going to use the wood chips just throughout on the property and for gardening, but there's also a local wildlife animal sanctuary that has a huge sign outside that says that they need wood chips. So I think that we're also going to donate some to them. I mean, it'd be cool if they buy them, but I think it's on a donation basis. So that'll be a cool situation, opportunity. And the last thing that we have purchased for the property so far, I am most excited about, is a new solar system. So if you guys have been following me for a time, you would know that we did have a solar, I feel so funny saying solar system because like we're in the solar system, but a solar power system, a solar grid system. I don't know. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Before we had purchased one from Costco, the brand was Lion Energy. We were really excited that it was sold at Costco. We felt like if we ever had any problems with it, that would make it easier so that we could return it or exchange it. They're just really good with the companies that they tend to partner with and like what they're able to do for you. So we have the solar and it was working pretty well. We honestly decided to take them off of our roof at one point because we had a day that was so windy, the one blew off the roof. Unfortunately, I don't think I have footage of that. I wish I did and I could show you, but it was such a windy day. We had been gathering a decent amount of solar power before that, and when we did decide to just put the solar panels on pause until we were on our land and we could secure them differently in just a more steady, permanent way, we still kept the huge backup batteries in our tiny house and used them as just that, backup batteries. We plugged the refrigerator into it and just a couple things where specifically like if the fridge, sometimes it kind of ramps up, and we thought that that would protect us from it maybe shorting out on the power and everything going dark, even though we found that that really wasn't necessary, but that's what we were doing at the time. So we started having a problem with our Lion Energy big batteries. So we have the main hub that everything plugged into and then a secondary battery, and it stopped being able to read the secondary battery and it wouldn't charge properly in all the way. It was being really finicky with the charging. We figured that it wasn't going to be a large enough system for everything that we wanted to do, and B, Jared was just getting sick of it with all of its hiccups that it was having, and it just wasn't worth it. So we returned that to Costco. They were amazing about it. It was, I think, like it was like $4,500, I want to say. So we figured we'd take that, put it towards a better solar system, and we ended up getting one from, I know that it's branded Rebel, but that's not the company. Ooh, I think it's Cutting Edge Power. Yes. The biggest thing that got us with them is that they have a huge hub that you can plug everything into, but we can plug our tiny house with a 30 or 50 amp plug directly into it, which was not something that we could do with our other solar. And that's just something that we would need to do to be able to be as off-grid as we want to be and be able to move onto the land and just have power instantly. It is like 3 times the price, but it also has like 3 times the power, a bunch of panels. It's gonna work amazing. We can always add things to it. It's really cool how plug and play their system seems to be. And they even give you an option for less money to build your own. The order is in, if I'm being honest, and I have so many mixed emotions, I don't know why, about Googling for coupon codes when buying things as opposed to like organically receiving coupon codes. He literally found a code that saved us just over $1,000. So we saved on that. Even though it was still a pricey penny, we're very excited about it. It's going to be a great system, speaking optimistically, but also like from the reviews, just from what they got going on, we feel very confident about them. Unfortunately though, it is like an 8 to 12 week lead time for having it delivered. So we did order it a couple weeks ago. We're just trying to see how the timing works out for everything because it is a huge item. It comes on a pallet. It weighs a lot. We want to be able to just have it delivered directly to the property. We really don't want to get it delivered here. We're really hoping that it just works out, that it's ready for delivery in between the time of us signing the close of escrow paperwork and by the time we prepared for the tiny house to be moved onto the land, because we do have things we need to do to get it ready. It's not like we can just move instantly, so we're hoping that this all works out time-wise. But even if it doesn't, not a problem, because Jared wants to have at least a backup option for in the future, where just in case it's rainy for a long time and we aren't getting a lot of solar, or just, I don't know, whatever the reason might be, if we need a backup option, then he wants to get a gas-powered backup generator that we can also plug our house 50 amp directly into. And right now they're on sale at Costco. I think it was like $650, which is pretty good, I believe, for that item. And that deal, if anyone is looking, goes through the end of the month, or almost the end of the month. So we're giving that time span, again, hopefully we'll sign escrow like tomorrow, and then we'll know if we need it right away or not. Then we'll just have it from the beginning, and then again as backup for whatever is needed. I can also then use it down at the shipping container. It can run the tempo machine, my walking pad, music, lights, stuff like that. So it'll all work out really well, she says, optimistically and positively. The last thing that I could think of to mention that technically is for the property, because it's for filming for the property, we bought a drone. I've always wanted to have a drone. Seems like a lot of fun, and especially with making YouTube videos and actually doing work on the land, changing what it looks like, eventually building a home on and other buildings on the land. Like, it'll be so cool to have aerial footage of us working, of before and after. I think those add a really cool new element to everything. So that, I actually think it's delivered today or tomorrow in the mail. We ended up buying from DJI. They had a sale a couple days ago, so I'm very excited. I could keep rambling with you guys, but I've clearly exhausted my camera battery because it is flashing at me. So I'm sure you guys are just as exhausted from all of this ridiculousness. So thank you all for your patience through this entire process, and also for watching this full video. I am very excited for the future, and if you aren't subscribed to my channel already, you gotta subscribe. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the beginning of December, and there's going to be so much coming with actually getting access to this land, getting the tiny on there, building it, doing everything with that drone, with that solar. I cannot wait. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.